On the I Am Drive on Sunny 88.7, where 17 minutes to 9 is Flourish. Big thanks to all our sponsors who are supporting us. Jenny, most people say boys are easier to raise. We hear that. Yeah, we hear that a lot. But I think behind every statement like that, the moms, the people who raise the boys will tell you that it's a whole lot of, wahala, protecting them emotionally, teaching them responsibility, and all of that. I grew up among 5 boys and 2 girls by a single mom. So I understand this, inside out. My house, Jenny, when my mom say, oh, it's ampesi, how many will you eat? If you say 4 is 4 later, you're not getting an additional one. We're a whole bunch. And so when food is in the fridge, leftovers, usually
it's apportioned already.
It's apportioned already. Jenny, take us away on this.
When I had my first daughter, Nanaya was pretty easy. Nanaya sit down, she'd sit down, Nanaya stand. Nanaya very, very understanding. Then Kojo came. And one day I got out of my room and I don't know whether he was trying to be Spider-Man, but I know I'd never shown him Spider-Man because he was trying to climb the window. I'm like, could you get down? If you don't get down, why? The guy was just staring at me. He was just 2. That's when I realized that I needed to change my approach. The Nanaya approach was not going to work for the boy. So I had to advise myself, revise my script, get some mentorship on what it would take to start raising him. So it's been quite an interesting journey. And we have Demay in the studio with us. She has a lot to share with us in regards to raising a boy. He's 18 now, but I'm sure she also has some stories to share.
But Jenny, I want to kick out first. Yeah. When you hear the phrase "boy mom diaries," what came to mind first on this conversation we're just about to have?
I think it's just cataloging your experiences with your boy child or raising a boy child, and I'll just lay the foundation that you see. I always say that motherhood is a spirit. Is an understanding, it's a stance, it's not necessarily biological. Because if it's biological, then adoption, then surrogacy, all that means nothing. But motherhood, and let's debunk that that theory that unless you don't understand. There is something to be said for that, but I believe that there are people too who chim and yet do not play the role.
You're right.
So for me, that tells me, and the reason why I say that is because if we are made in the image and likeness of God, which is the personality, the characteristic, and it's both male and female, we're made in that image, then our essence and our being is not necessarily the physical aspect. That physical aspect is just for reproduction. Otherwise, the men and women are the same because all made in the personality, the image, the likeness, the understanding and the perception, the supposition of God. Okay, so that debunks that whole thing that when I got this revelation that motherhood and fatherhood is a spirit, it's not biology. I was like, wow, and I've had to research it over and over again through both scripture and even in terms of modern psychology. And you realize that it's saying the same thing. So raising what boys' diaries, raising boys, and Jennifer mentioned the first thing that she said to her son, get down. The guy was just staring.
Yeah.
And we should also understand that in science, scientifically, that genetics, before we used to think once there's a gene, it's just there. It doesn't mutate. Genes mutate. And so over centuries, boys have been raised a particular way. So it's become a personality, a trait, a characteristic, a likeness, an image. And so it may seem as if boys are like this and girls are like that, but it's because girls have consciously been made like that. So over the years, it's become a trait, it's become a personality, it's become part of the genetic constituent of the of the female child. So raising a boy child, what I really, for me, my message is that raising human children should not be different, because both of them, and you know the charge, and because it's a Christian station, the charge says, and he said to them, male, female, be fruitful. Fruitfulness, for you to be fruitful, it takes conscious mindfulness. You have to be creative. You have to have a nurturing spirit to be fruitful, whether it's physical, spiritual, emotional, material. You need to engage all four cortexes of your brain to be fruitful. And it says multiply. So it means you need to double things. You shouldn't be wasteful. You need to increase things. And it talks about increase. And it talks about dominion. But the sad thing, it talks about dominion of everything God made except the human beings. It says dominate, subdue the earth, subdue the animals, the birds, the environment, take over. Then the last thing is replenish, which means replace and ensure that whatever you're using, you leave it intact or you leave it in its original state. So if you look at these principles that God put in place for both boys and girls, men, and we're talking about children now, so I'm talking about boys and girls, then if you start with that foundation, that you engage all the four cortexes. I'm so passionate about this because what we do, the brain has four cortexes, and all four cortexes have to do the human development, the creative aspect, the decision-making aspect. And by the way, do you know that modern science also teaches that, modern psychology teaches that the human brain does not develop fully till between the age of 25 and late 20s, from 25 to late 20s. So then it means that 0 to 25 is a formative age where we actually ensure that people are set for life. And in that stage, if already you're saying to a boy child who is 5, and the one of the number one mistakes we make with boy children is that we already start treating them like men before they've even grown. Okay? A child is a child, whether male or female. And so when you make a boy child think they can get away with things or they don't have to do that, you're setting them up for a setting. It's almost like they are special because they breathe. You don't teach them responsibility, accountability. You don't teach them that respect is earned. You don't teach them to take responsibility for themselves. And again, I'll come to psychology again, that, you know, the basics of human existence and survival is food, water, shelter, your environment. Now, how can you train a human child to flourish? I like that. We are talking about flourishing. To flourish on earth, leaving these four aspects out. What kind of man, woman would you be raising? The sad thing is that we give that to the girls. We let them engage all the four cortexes, the creative aspect, the aspect that teaches them about shape, size, color, texture. All that is done right from the home. When you teach a child to clean, to navigate spaces, to know when to apply pressure to something, when to release, this is all a basic foundation you are setting for the child. And we do all that for the girl child. And the boy child's four cortex, we only focus on the frontal lobe. And even that, the frontal lobe is a decision-making place, the planning and decision-making skills. And so if you don't teach a child how to take decisions, and by the way, for me, I define a boy child as a child that is made in the image, likeness of God, who has the responsibility to be taught to lead himself, his family, his environment, and everything else that is in his charge, to make sure that it's better, because that's leadership. Leadership is not positional. is not a title. It's a stance. It's an understanding. It's an attitude you have that makes you a leader. So if you, yeah.
One mistake parents make
Mm-hmm.
in raising their boys as men. I think I want to delve a bit into that, because
Yeah.
we're looking at leadership. That's what they're going to become, right? And you're
Yes.
bringing them up that way.
Yes.
So if you can delve into
Jenny,
that.
Jenny, let me
yeah.
add a little.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think 4 years ago, I was in a conversation with Uncle White on the radio, and a lady, one of our listeners, called us and said, "Oh, she just realized that her boy is actually peeing sitting down like how she does on the WC."
Okay.
You know, and she was a bit emotional. Uncle was like, "You take it easy. I mean, he's been looking at something. It's only boy you." And I mean, if you can also add how we can raise boys emotionally to grow strong or not to be too weak. All right, the balance between being emotional. You just said, I mean, we naturally, raise boys to lead and all of that. Sometimes we raise them and they are maybe a bit arrogant, on the arrogant side, thinking men are this, men are that. Or if you're not careful, you're going to raise a boy very weak. So
Yeah.
add
Yeah.
that, let's balance it out.
Okay, so the leadership I'm talking about is not the traditional leadership of if you're a leader and you are strong and you dictate and you shove people around, and that's not leadership. That's why I define that. When you say you're a man, like the grown man, it is somebody that has come into agreement with their creator as to their purpose, as to their mission on earth, and has developed the skills and the capacity to be able to apply himself in his peculiar nature to himself, to his environment, to his whoever he comes in, whether he has biological children, whether he's married, whether it's his work and the workforce. Now let me paint a picture. Let's say let's take it that the man is a captain, okay, the boy child. I mean, I'm talking about, it doesn't mean that for me, I'm sorry, it doesn't mean that. I think girl children must also be taught the same things.
Exactly.
But today we are talking about the boy child, so we're staying there. That you have a ship. In a ship, you have a crew, which is the workforce. You also have goods, mostly on ships, and you have human beings who are just travelers. Now, the boy child should be trained to be the captain, to ensure that he anchors the goods, which is the material things he has, anchors the workforce, which is wherever he finds himself in authority, anchors the people, which could be his children, his wife, his extended family, his parents, whatever, to a successful anchorage. That's when you're called a captain. We salute you. Because if you can't keep your ship safe and anchored, and all the members of your ship are anchored safely, so if you're not raised to be able to protect, to be able to nurture, to ensure things are functioning, to ensure that you yourself are functioning, because you see there are parts of our brain that is responsible for all these various things I'm talking about. So the last part of the brain that develops is the prefrontal lobe, which is responsible for decision making and responsible for skill development, like leadership skills and executing tasks, decision making and all that. So sometimes I even question the age of voting, which is 18, because psychology tells us 25 is when you are beginning to basically round up with your brain development, and the last part to really form is the decision making part of your brain. So I'm wondering where we're going with all this. So the boy child, what we don't do is to allow him to engage all the four lobes of all the cortexes of his brain to be able to function. You see, we think, oh, women are creative. No, boys are also creative. If they apply that aspect of the creative brain, if you train the boy child, you find that they even have more details. So men that do decor and all that, you watch them, they're extra. That's because they have focused on developing that aspect of their brain. Now, So people think, oh, men are just decision makers. No, that's just 1/4 of your brain. So imagine you train a boy child to just function with the frontal lobe. What happens to the other 3 lobes of their brain? Do you see the danger we put boys in? So they get frustrated easily because that aspect of the brain that curates and helps you to have emotional balance, makes you less anxious, helps you to be able to face situations with a balance, like you said, emotional balance. That aspect is taken out. It's not trained. It's there, but it hasn't been developed. And it begins from the home, from zero. You must teach boys to have self-control, to be able to measure risk properly, not to just say that, oh, I feel like jumping, so I'm jumping. They say that's boys. No. Your daughter that you're talking about is measuring. That's what she's doing. She's measuring risk. She's actually taking time to assess her environment, taking time to be mindful. And mindfulness is a major healthy mental attitude to have, to be mindful of your environment, to take cognizance of yourself, of the people around you. And in therapy, one of the things that when you talk to a person that comes to you for therapy, one of the things you look out for are their self-care, their attitude towards work, the environment. Because once a person's mental health hits rock bottom, the first thing they do is to neglect themselves, don't have the urge to take care of themselves, don't have the urge to eat sometimes, or they overeat, don't have the urge to clean their environment, to lay bed. So one of the major things you do in therapy, even whether it's drug addiction, whatever, whether it's depression, anxiety, is to help the person walk them through to be able to first take care of themselves. Once a patient comes in or a client comes in, you see there's a change in the first day they walked in, and now they've actually taken a bath, they've actually taken time, you know that healing has begun. Something is changing. So I'm saying these things that we think that we are doing a favor to men, where we don't allow the boy child to wash their things, take care, curate this. Oh, remember there's who said that? It's not right. It's not. We are harming these boys, because as a full human being, your cooking skills, feeding yourself, clothing yourself, taking care of your spatial environment, then your external environment and other people, and being sensitive to it, which we think is a masem. Being sensitive to yourself, to your environment, to the people around you, is the number one basic survival instinct, even in animals. You go to a house, a dog starts sniffing you. They are watching the environment, they're watching your body language. So if you don't teach a child from early to be able to recognize those things, they become foolhardy. They don't recognize when they're taking, they don't assess risk. They don't recognize when there's danger. They just do things, I feel like, oh, this is what I see. But sometimes they say women talk a lot, because the woman will break it down. Like, okay, let me call you away. So there's more talk. But you see, talking is a process through which, as human, God is a gift of God to be able to communicate, understand each other, and work things out. So all these things like, oh, a man shouldn't talk, is why there's so much mental ill health in men today. Do you know suicidal rates are higher in men than in women in modern day? Because they saddled with work provision, with no way of, so they go and excel with football, but when you come home, your problems are still there waiting for you. They go and excel with a drink, but you come home, your problems are still waiting for you.
Some with side chicks.
Side chicks say that. But that's during the COVID, one of the things that came out was a lot of abuse in the homes, and it was mostly men to women abuse, because you see, they suddenly found themselves having to face the wife every day, the children. They actually had to look at the normal home environment, which they were always running away from. And so they couldn't handle it. But look at what women did. CEOs became mask makers. They reinvented themselves. They started delivering food. That's when delivering door-to-door deliveries became popular. And it was, most of these businesses were run by women. And some men also became very suicidal, were drinking, were doing that, because we did not teach the boy child sensitivity. We did not teach them risk assessment. We did not allow them to use their full potential, the fullness of the Godhead, spirit, soul, and body. Your soul is your intellect, your emotions, your willpower, your decision making, your understanding. You have to engage all three aspects plus the physical. If we lay gender is a physical aspect. It's human beings are more than our physical bodies. Otherwise, then we'll disrespect the disabled. Then we'll look down on this, then, because we are just focusing on the physical. But the inner person, the inner man, that's the real person, made in the image and likeness, the personality, the order of God. That is a real person. And as mothers and as fathers, as parents, as society, as Ghanaians, we must be, if we want to correct leader, we all say leadership is not good. Leadership, I say, politicians, I say, pastors, I say, we keep complaining. But today I'm talking to Ghana, I'm saying begins in the home. And if we can balance raising boy children the same way we raise girls children, the society will be balance. That's the balance you're talking about.
So Demay, you
Yes.
mentioned two things. How important it is that we're teaching boys, we're teaching children sensitivity and also risk assessment.
Yeah.
And for anyone listening in, mom, dad, parent, uncle, whoever, how can they assist their child with sensitivity and also the risk assessment we've been talking about?
So, first of all, I think you could see, people like us can sit with a child and we can, there are techniques we do that we can be able to assess the child's level in terms of the emotional stability, in terms of how they're using all the various cortexes, all the various lobes of their brain. So when you assess, then you now create programs at home. But for me, the most priceless, the most inexpensive thing to do, let them start cleaning, cooking, laying the bed. That's a key thing. In the military, you lay your bed. It's a discipline. It's something that, and the bed laying, you might think, I'm just laying a bed. No, you're not just laying a bed. You are looking at precision. You are looking at coordination as you coordinate your colors. So you're exercising your brain. And we think exercise of brain is only in the classroom. But I taught my children to read and write in my kitchen. I taught them the basic maths of addition. My daughter is in the studio and she knows what I'm talking about. When I'm cooking,
She just took a look at her mom.
I say to her, okay, hand me 2 tomatoes. Okay, how many? So I cut. I'm like, okay, so how many pieces is this? Okay, give me 1. So what is left then? So by the time my child is 3, they're reading and writing. They can pick up any book and they can add, at least they can do basic maths, addition, subtraction, division by 3, basics. And that happens in the kitchen. And what is a Montessori system about? The Montessori system is outdoor learning through play. Basically, that's a summary. And that advances the human brain more than the straight classroom work. So at some point, I was a bit controversial when we were talking about schools under trees. And I said, there's nothing wrong with schools under trees. The problem is the irresponsibility of governments to ensure that facilities are around the trees. Because when I was in school, I loved this when we would go outdoors and you'd be told to describe what you've seen. And that's when my creativity started, just to be able to, if sometimes it's amazing, a child comes here and you say to them, describe this, and they struggle because they're not used to being able to put together textures, put together images, sizes. And so when you take them through certain process, you find the child would be able to do their maths very easily, do the, there was a time when I was doing the Night of the Arts, I had a lecture where I got a doctor, a scientist, with Professor Atukwe Okai, the merger. And because I had discovered from research that science and creativity, they go together. So I did a research and I thought I'd put that paper together. And when I did that, it was amazing, because these were now professors. They had gone beyond what I had gone, what I had learned. And it was amazing. The best way to teach a child the sciences is through simple tasks, like teaching a child to sweep. That child is learning measurements. Is she going to just sweep here, sweep? When they start, that's what they do.
Yeah.
Move the broom here. Then slowly they begin to do measurements. They start measuring. This must stop here. This must do that. If you can do the basics for a boy child like that, you couldn't have a better child. When they understand risk, they understand sensitivity, you let them have. One of the ways to also make them sensitive and intelligent is always let a child have eye contact when you're speaking to them. All this running around with food and running around everywhere is hyperactivity, and sometimes it also comes from the food we give them, but that's another topic.
Okay.
Makes them have, attention
hyper.
deficits
Sure.
here and there. But teaching a child to have eye contact, and boys normally are not, mommy, daddy, you calm them down, you slow them down, you ground them, and you tell them, look in my eyes. Okay, so what are you saying? Look at mommy. What are you saying? What do you want? Why do you want it? So you take a child through thought patterns, logical thinking. And one time people say men are logical. I'm like, no, men are more they are so emotional. It's like, I say so. By the time you slow it down and you take it through, sometimes they get angry when you slow the process down, because they're not used to slowing down and getting grounded. And so a lot of marriages are in turmoil. It's like, you don't understand. Because nobody is grounded. If both of them had been trained to ground, to be aware, to be sensitive, they would listen. There would be problems, but you'd work through it with sensitivity. You would not feel like understanding my wife means I'm weak. Or wiping. Do you know the process of potty training psychologically for a child? And do you know the extent of what, when a father potty trains, the difference in effect? Because you see, that child is already bonded with the mother in the womb. Their blood is mixed. Their body liquid is mixed. They've been talking to each other, making her vomit, and she's like, yeah, they've had communication. They are bonded already. When they come out, now it's the other blood running through them must begin to take its place. And when it doesn't take, that's why they tell you single parenthood children tend to be this and that. It's not so much the situation. It is the absence of the input. It is the absence of the nurturing of the father. And we've left that for women. But the father is a nurturer. Fruitfulness, be fruitful, multiply, increase, subdue, dominate the earth, not one another. Do you know the process? If I could write a 200-page book on this, the processes, the psychological, emotional, mental processes you have to go through to do these 5 charges that God has given to the whole of humanity. And then, of course, you have then, now from the boy child who is grounded, who is sensitive, who has been trained to apply all the 4 lobes of their brain, will now go into school, be balanced, be sensitive, come up with leadership experiences, and always be thinking about the society. Have, my children always have CSRs, They won't write any proposal without a CSR, because I've taught them empathy, I've taught them social awareness, and I teach them from young, and not just about, I can afford this. No, there are other people. You're supposed to engage the earth, dominate the earth, not just you. So when you teach children that, you give them that kind of grounding, then when they go to school, they're different. Then when they now become MPs or politicians or doctors or lawyers or nurses or whatever professions they venture into, they will apply these things and they'll bring quality, they'll bring sanity. They'll understand that every move they make must ensure humanity's safety, humanity's well-being, humanity's safe. All four lobes are functioning. So it kicks in, and the brain just never stops growing and developing concepts, ideas, for whatever it is they have chosen to do in their life. So raising of the way we've raised boy child it's kind of made society imbalanced. Because you have boys that have been raised not to think for themselves, not to be sensitive to themselves, not to take time for themselves. Like, you wake up and you think it is okay as a boy, oh, you mean driving me a bema. Is that your identity? Is that your lifestyle? And so to me, we've shortchanged boys. And I feel very sad, because I can prove it neurologically, I can prove it scientifically, and I can prove it spiritually, that we have really disappointed boy children. We have not raised them to bring out the extensive self that God put in them, by letting them not understand nurturing, sensitivity, not understand their home environment, not to be able to take responsibility at home for the minutest detail. Do you think a child that has taken cognizance of the minutest detail in their home, do you think when they go and sit in their lab, or sit in their office, or sit in the doctor's room, or sit at the nursing table, or the teacher's table, do you know what they would bring to bear in that situation? And if you find that all the humanities used to be dominated by women, because that's the area where all your four lobes are functional to its capacity.
Right here, Sunny 88.7. Jenny, one of our listeners asking, Jenny, please, who's the lady? What's her name? Demay, would you want to introduce yourself to this, our listener?
We didn't.
Yeah. So we were Pastor Penny Demay, 360 Lifestyle Network, 360 Habitat Concierge, and the Human Development Foundation. Pastor Penny Demay.
We're wrapping up in about 10 minutes. Jenny, one of the questions that was on my mind, and I think Demay has answered it quite beautifully, was how important spirituality, faith, and everything was for raising boys. But I think it's been in everything she has said from the beginning that is very, very important. This is one of the most practical conversations I have, been part of when it comes to raising children and boys in particular, because I think society, we've had certain perceptions for a long time, like like men must be fearful and ugly, and you see, and so you grow up, and there are a lot of men in the studio now. You grow up with wanting not to be vulnerable. You grow up and you want to shelve everything. You grow up and you think, oh, if I have to be emotional to my wife, I know I don't have to, I have to let her leave before I cry.
That's a parietal lobe. That's what's responsible for curating and helping you to balance your emotions, balance your creativity, and all that. So yeah, and it's every human being has it, whether you're a male or female. It's there. God has put it in there, but it's up to parents and society or your guardian, whoever is raising that child, to ensure that all four are functioning optimally. That's a balanced human being. Optimally.
Sorry. So you see that there's a wife who's trying to sit together with the husband to try to process the situation they're in. And like she said, he can't handle the whole breaking down, slow down. So all of a sudden, like the whole situation turns around, he flips, he's out, and the conversation never happens. And so there are marriages that are not having conversations that have to be. It's been 5 years, it's been 10 years. Somebody flips. There's a whole lot, and today as Demay is talking, I'm now realizing the source of some of these things. We have a question here from Clement, and let me just get into that if Demay can offer some help. Says, I have a challenge with my 3.5-year-old boy who now wakes up and cries for like 30 minutes on end. Notes that his mom works out of town and she's home weekends only. Obapenyi, please, we need some advice.
Okay, so I think that probably, again, because of the traditional father role, he's probably thinking he doesn't have the capacity to really look after the child. So there probably could be some missing links for the child. It doesn't mean that the child will never miss the mom. Every child misses both parents when they are absent. But so I think that he should start calming himself down, start taking on the nurturing role as opposed to making sure he's fed, he's bathed and all that. No, nurturing as to, why are you crying? Oh, really? Oh, so what can I do to help? So you know, and that's a temporal lobe.
Okay.
Where you learn to follow a sequence of questions, a sequence of events. That's why you teach a child how to tie a lace. It's so crucial. How to tie their shoes, put on their shoes. You know, that's when you're using a temporal lobe. And so this father probably may not have that experience. So he should start by getting to the nitty-gritty of the child's life. Like, you know, children will come to mommy, share. Just some tiny thing. A man may be tempted, if he's a traditional man, to just say, what is that? Be a man. What is that? But the mother would say, Mommy, share. Oh, then blow over it. And that's enough for the child.
Yeah.
So you see, you're also teaching the child, you know, there's a fear of flight mode. You're teaching the child not to panic about everything. You're offering solutions. So if he can apply that side of him, and trust me, my dear, it's there. If you can slow yourself down, if you're not sure, think about what your wife does when she comes home and try and mimic that in her absence.
So
try and mimic that, not to be too busy to do that. And you'll be surprised the child might calm down.
So he's back to say, he's listening, and he's back to say that he does start with morning hugs when he wakes up. So I think he's trying
the night,
small.
she cries in the nights, isn't it? So the night is when, so the morning hug, you have decided the morning, maybe the child wants it in the night. Or maybe it's something that has been happening, but because the mother had solution, he never saw it, that the child wakes up at a certain time and maybe wants something. So it could be just a hug. It could be that the child is scared. I'll give you an experience. I was trying to teach my younger daughter how to swim, and it was a task. The first one, by 2 years, she herself would jump. She was trying to get on the ski boards on the sea, and by 4, 5, she was diving. So now I had this one who would be like, no, mommy, no, mommy, even in the pool. So one day I went to the beach. It became a worrisome for me that how is she going to learn how to swim? Okay, so I went to the beach with a group of friends in the night. And as we were talking, I just looked at the pitch black sea, and the wave came, and the wave looked humongous and funny because of the night. And I heard a voice whisper to me, that's how Toby sees the sea. I was like, I get it. So she sees the sea like a monster. So when I went back and I started processing, I took her to the beach and step by step took her through it. That's how she overcame the fear of water, aquaphobia. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So you don't know what's going on in the child's mind. You need to figure it out. And as parents, we need to sometimes pray. We need to ask God, do you know your child? Do you know their purpose? Do you know? Because a child may be talking so much. Maybe that child is just like somebody I know. But I didn't know she was going to be a journalist. I didn't know she was going to speak for people. I didn't know she was going to be an empathetic person who is a voice, an activist. You know, there's another one who is very cautious, sensitive, and you can see it through. So I have, and then I have the other one who's like a light. Everywhere he goes, the place lights up. So you must know your child. In the Bible, every human being that God had a purpose for and did not want the parents to make a mistake, he would always send an angel to say, this child is this, is that, whether it's Jesus, whether it's Moses, you could tell. So another way is to actually know your child. If you haven't done it yet, ask God. Ask, who is this child? Because I had to ask for the first one, I was given an answer. I asked the second one, I was given an answer. The pacifier, the one who is stronger than 10 men. I was given the answer, and everything from then has been the same. That's who they are, and the light. And sometimes even the names that you've named them, have you sat to ask yourself? Some of you, your children have names you don't even understand yourself. But names are an identity.
Your
It's
daughter's
not the
name is quite interesting, I
semantics.
think.
It's not the dialect. It's purposeful. You know, Jacob became what? Israel. But before he was Jacob, totally messed up, totally missed the mark. Okay, Jesus was said the Christ, he will be the savior, so call him Jesus Christ. John, like they had a purpose. So do you know your child's purpose? That boy child that's giving you problems, there must be something he's trying to let you know that you are not figuring out. As parents, one of the things I would say to parents, slow down. Just slow down. Your child, when you are not grounded, your children are not grounded. When you slow your own mind down, slow yourself down, your child also, like a child can come, mommy, 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 and you calmly go to his level and say, okay, now, what is it? Talk to me, calm down. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Okay, now, talk to me. And they are fumbling. And you still slow them down. So you're teaching them how to sequentially and logically make statements and let it make sense. If you don't understand, don't jump to aid them. Say to them, no, mommy didn't understand. So let's go through it again. So every point in time, you're actually training your child, whether in the kitchen, in the bathroom, wherever you are. There's no limit to training time. It's not this every day, okay, let's gather around the table, let's read scriptures, and that's devotional time. The family is together. Outside, or how do they bring flesh to the word? The word became flesh. How do they flesh the word out?
Right here.
It's those training times.
I am Drive Sunny 887. We're just about, we've got a minute to go. Jenny, Abena is listening in the US. She's asking, says, great conversation. Thank you for the education. I hope we can have the recording after. Two requests for your number. Demay, is there a number you would want us to share for those who would want to seek, talk
I
to
think
you?
the number will be important because the father's back to say he's picking bags, he's feeding, he's negotiating his
Okay,
bathing. So I
so
think
let's
we
talk.
need to
Number.
share
Let's
contact.
talk.
Yeah.
Let's talk. It's time to talk.
Yeah.
0500 489938 0500 489938.
Let's do it again whilst I type it. 0500
48
48
99
99
38.
38.
Yes.
Alrighty, so that's the number to call. Jenny, this has been very good.
Very
Honestly,
educational.
I mean, for most of
Very
us
much.
dads and moms who are feeling a bit guilty this morning, slow down, all right? That's where to begin from. Know your child, their purpose in life. I think it will help you to navigate, through all of this. We may have to do this conversation again, pa.